You walk into a store and see something you might buy: a sweater, a mug, a blanket, a notebook, a sofa, a towel, some object that has done absolutely nothing except sit there under artificial lighting. You already know what it looks like. There is a price tag. There may even be a label explaining the material, dimensions, washing instructions, and probably 3 things nobody asked. Still, your hand reaches out. You touch it. Apparently, the brain refuses to make a purchase until the fingers have conducted a small criminal investigation. The strange part is how automatic it feels. You do not stand there thinking, "Before I evaluate this product, I must gather haptic data to improve my consumer confidence." You just grab the sleeve, press the cushion, rub the fabric, lift the cup, open the notebook, test the zipper, tap the table, squeeze the pillow, or run your fingers along the edge of something you might not even buy. The hand acts like it has voting rights. Sometimes it wins. Online shopping made this habit more obvious. You can see 47 photos of the same jacket from every angle known to commerce. You can zoom in until the stitching looks like satellite imagery. You can read reviews from people named verified buyer who have very strong feelings about sleeve length. Yet some part of you still thinks, but what does it feel like? The screen can show the object. It cannot let your body meet it. That missing contact matters because touch gives the brain a kind of information vision cannot fully replace. A photo can suggest softness, but your fingers check whether that softness is real or just marketing with good lighting. A couch may look comfortable, then feel like a punishment device designed by a committee. A towel can look luxurious and still have the emotional texture of a paper napkin at a gas station. Touch cuts through the fantasy quickly. The brain uses touch to judge quality. Weight, temperature, texture, flexibility, firmness, smoothness, resistance, balance, and surface all become evidence. A heavy mug may feel durable. A soft sweater may feel comforting. A stiff fabric may feel cheap or structured, depending on the object. A zipper that catches once can ruin the whole relationship before it begins. Your fingers are not being dramatic. They are reading physical clues. That is why touching something before buying often feels like reducing risk. Buying is a small prediction about the future. You are not only asking, "Do I like this?" You are asking whether this object will survive your life, fit your body, match your habits, justify the price, feel good in use, and avoid becoming another thing in your home that silently judges you from a drawer. Touch helps the brain make that prediction less abstract. This is especially true for products that live close to the body. Clothes, shoes, bedding, towels, furniture, bags, handles, books, phones, kitchen tools. These are not just visual objects. They will press against your skin, sit in your hand, carry weight, hold heat, bend, scratch, soften, loosen, break, or annoy you in small daily ways. The eyes can approve a product from a distance. The hand asks the harder question: can I live with this? There is also a control element. When you touch an object, you are no longer only looking at it as something on a shelf. You are interacting with it. You can turn it, test it, lift it, compare it, move it closer, imagine using it. That physical control changes the relationship. The object becomes less like store inventory and more like a possible part of your world. Consumer researchers call part of this feeling psychological ownership, the sense that something already feels a little bit yours before legal ownership has caught up with the receipt. That is where things get slightly dangerous for your wallet. Touch can make an object feel more personally connected to you. Not always, and not for every product, but enough that stores understand the power of letting people handle things. The moment you pick something up, your brain can begin rehearsing ownership. You imagine it on your desk, in your kitchen, on your body, in your bag, on your couch. solving a tiny lifestyle problem you did not know you had until a shelf displayed it with confidence. The object starts auditioning for your identity. A plain mug becomes my morning coffee mug. A jacket becomes the version of me who walks places with purpose. A notebook becomes the organized person I continue to financially support, despite limited evidence. Touch makes that fantasy more physical. You feel the handle, you feel the weight, you picture the routine. The product becomes less theoretical. This is one reason people can feel weirdly attached to something they have only held for 30 seconds. It is not love. Calm down, it is a ceramic bowl. But the brain has started mapping the object into a possible future. That little preview of ownership can make putting it back feel like rejecting a tiny version of yourself who apparently owns better home goods. The endowment effect is relevant here too. People often value things more once they feel a sense of ownership over them. Touch can contribute to that feeling. Because contact makes the object more personally present. You have held it, you have controlled it, you have gathered evidence from it. The object is still not yours, but emotionally it may have crossed the border and started unpacking. Good stores know this. They arrange products so you can touch them easily. Soft blankets are not sealed in metal boxes for a reason. Furniture stores invite you to sit, lean, open drawers, test cushions, pretend you are the kind of person whose living room does not contain cables, laundry, and one suspicious chair. Tech stores let you hold devices. Clothing stores let fabrics hang where your hand naturally passes. The environment is designed to make contact feel casual, because casual contact can become commitment. The opposite happens when you are not allowed to touch. A locked case changes the feeling immediately. Suddenly, the product becomes distant, expensive, risky, or suspiciously official. Even if you understand the reason, the purchase feels less personal. You are forced to rely on sight, description, and trust. That may be enough for some products, but for tactile goods, it can leave a gap. The brain wants confirmation from the body. Online shopping tries to fill that gap with language. Buttery soft, premium feel, cloud-like comfort, luxurious texture. Commerce has learned to flirt with your nervous system. The problem is that these words have been abused beyond repair. Every blanket is cloud-like now. Every shirt is premium. Every pillow promises support, as if it has completed a degree in emotional labor. Without touch, the brain has to decide how much of the description is information and how much is a salesman wearing adjectives. Reviews help, but they are secondhand touch. Someone else can tell you the fabric is thin, the material is scratchy, the mug is heavier than expected, the shoes feel stiff, or the couch is firm. That helps, yet your body may disagree. One person's soft is another person's, why does this feel like office carpet? Touch is personal because bodies are personal. Sensitivity, preference, memory, and expectation all change the judgment. Memory plays a quiet role. The brain compares new textures with old experiences. A fabric may remind you of childhood bedding, a school uniform, a hotel towel, a cheap shirt, a parent's coat, a hospital blanket, or some object you cannot name, but your skin apparently remembers. Touch carries emotional shortcuts. Sometimes you like something before you can explain why. Sometimes you reject it immediately because it feels wrong in a way your vocabulary is too tired to describe. Texture can also signal safety and comfort. Humans are physical creatures before they are rational consumers pretending to evaluate spreadsheets. Smooth edges, warm surfaces, softness, stability, and familiar materials can make an object feel easier to trust. sharpness, roughness, stickiness, coldness, flimsiness, or strange resistance can create instant hesitation. The product may look fine, but the body files a complaint. Weight is one of the most interesting signals. People often associate weight with substance, durability, seriousness, or value, depending on the product. A heavier pen may feel more premium. A heavier phone may feel solid. A heavy coat may feel protective. Of course, weight can also be annoying. Nobody wants a premium suitcase that requires a recovery plan. The brain does not simply prefer heavy things. It interprets weight based on what the object is supposed to do. The same is true of texture. Softness is good for a blanket, suspicious for a cutting board, and catastrophic for a ladder. Smoothness is elegant on glass, slippery on a tool handle, and confusing on a peach. Touch only makes sense in context. The hand is not asking whether the object feels good in general. It is asking whether the object feels right for its purpose. That is why physical shopping can feel more decisive than online browsing. In a store, touch collapses uncertainty quickly. You can eliminate options in seconds. Too thin, too stiff, too rough, too light, too slippery, too fake, too fragile, too weird. The brain loves removing possibilities because choice is exhausting. A shelf full of options becomes easier when the hand starts rejecting candidates like a tiny judge with nerve endings. Digital shopping often creates the opposite problem. More options, less certainty. You compare photos, sizes, ratings, return policies, and shipping dates. The object remains imaginary until it arrives. That uncertainty is why people overread reviews, zoom into fabric, inspect product videos, and still feel mildly betrayed when the package arrives and the material has the spiritual presence of a shower curtain. The missing touch has to be replaced by suspicion. Touch also slows you down. That can be good. Physical contact makes the decision more embodied. You pause, you feel, you imagine use. Instead of clicking quickly, you experience a small delay between desire and purchase. Of course, stores can use that delay against you by making objects pleasant to handle. A candle jar with a nice weight can suddenly feel like a responsible adult purchase, even though you came in for batteries and emotional stability. There is a subtle difference between wanting to touch and needing to touch. Some people care more about tactile information than others. Consumer psychologists have studied this as individual differences in the need for touch. For some buyers, touch is central to confidence. They want to feel the product before choosing. Others are more comfortable relying on visuals, descriptions, brands, or reviews. Neither group is automatically smarter. They are just gathering certainty through different channels. The product category matters too. You probably do not need to stroke a box of cereal before trusting it, though someone somewhere has probably tried. But clothing, bedding, furniture, bags, paper, tools, cosmetics, packaging, and anything held or worn invites the hand. The more a product depends on bodily experience, the more touch becomes part of the evaluation. There is also a social side. In a store, touching something can signal interest. Salespeople notice. Friends notice. The object becomes part of a conversation. Someone says, "That looks good," or "That feels cheap," or "You don't need another one," which is hurtful but occasionally accurate. The moment the product is in your hand, the decision becomes more public and more real. You are not browsing anymore. You are considering. That consideration can create pressure. Once you have held something for too long, putting it back can feel oddly deliberate. Nobody cares, but your brain acts like the shelf will be offended. You test the texture, rotate the object, nod thoughtfully, and return it with the seriousness of a judge dismissing a case. The object failed. It knows what it did. The weird comedy of all this is that the hand sometimes understands the purchase before the mind does. You touch a sweater and immediately know no. You pick up a mug and somehow know yes. You test a chair and feel your entire future posture collapse. These reactions are not pure logic, but they are not meaningless either. The body is integrating information quickly. It is comparing the object to your habits, preferences, memories, and expectations. A good purchase often requires both systems. The hand can tell you how it feels. The mind still has to ask whether you need it, whether it fits, whether it costs too much, whether you already own 3 versions of it, and whether future me will use this is once again a polite scam. Touch gives information. It does not automatically give wisdom. Your fingers may be persuasive, but they are not financial advisors. The deeper reason touch matters is that ownership is not only legal. It is physical and psychological. Before an object becomes yours on paper, the brain wants to know whether it can become yours in practice. Can your hand trust it? Can your skin tolerate it? Does the weight make sense? Does the surface match the promise? Does it feel like part of your world? Or like a mistake with a barcode? That is why touching things before buying is not just a silly shopping habit. It is the brain asking the body for evidence. Vision says, "This looks good." Marketing says, "This will improve your life immediately." The price tag says, "Let's make this complicated." Touch cuts in with the most honest question. What happens when this object meets me? In a world where more buying happens through screens, that question becomes even more important. Photos can persuade, reviews can guide, videos can help. But touch carries a kind of proof that digital shopping still struggles to replace. The brain wants contact, because contact reduces distance. It turns a product from an image into an experience. The next time you reach for a sweater, press a cushion, lift a mug, or touch a texture before buying, notice how quickly your opinion changes. Your hand is not being childish. It is not just fidgeting. It is checking quality, comfort, control, memory, and possible ownership all at once. A whole evaluation happens before you ever say, "I like this." That does not mean you should trust every object that feels good. Stores would love that. A soft blanket can still be overpriced. A heavy gadget can still be useless. A beautiful notebook can still become a decorative monument to your abandoned self-improvement era. But the impulse to touch makes sense. Your brain is trying to make the future less uncertain by bringing the object into the body's present. So the real reason your brain wants to touch things before buying is not simply curiosity. Touch helps decide whether the object belongs near you. It tests the difference between looking good and feeling right. It gives the body a vote in a decision the mind might otherwise make from a picture, a promise, and a suspiciously enthusiastic product description. Sometimes the fingers know the truth first. Annoying, but useful.